Welcome to Analytics Nexus. Thank you for joining us for Scott Brinker's presentation, The New Rules of Marketing Technology and Operations. Scott Brinker has been analyzing marketing technology and its impact on marketing organizations for more than a decade. He serves as VP Platform Ecosystem at Hubspot, helping to grow and nurture the company's community of technology partners. Scott writes the chiefmartech.com blog and serves as the program chair of the Martech Conference Series. Additionally, he authored the best-selling book, Hacking Marketing, about adapting software management practices such as agile methodologies to marketing teams. Previously, he was the founder and CTO of Ion Interactive. Scott holds degrees in computer science from Columbia University and Harvard University and an MBA from MIT.
Hi everyone, Scott Brinker here. I'm looking forward to talking with you today about the new rules of marketing technology and operations. I've been working in the field of marketing technology for over 10 years. I'm the VP Platform Ecosystem at HubSpot. I write the chiefmartech.com blog, and I'm the program chair of the Martech Conference. For better and worse, I'm also known as the fellow behind this crazy graphic, if you've seen any variations of this over the years. It has been my attempt to chart all of the different marketing technology solutions out there, which has grown quite a bit over the years. When I first started doing that exercise in 2011, I came up with a chart of about 150 different marketing technologies, things for managing your website and CRM and basic email marketing and social media. And at the time, people were like, oh my goodness, 150 different marketing technologies. How will we ever keep track of them all? But then year over year, as I went through this exercise, it just kept doubling, to 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, 5,000. I mean, last year, the chart had over 7,000 different MarTech solutions, which most people's reaction to it is, wow, this is crazy. For marketers, the past 10 years has been a really interesting journey. As marketing technology really started to grow, most marketing organizations, marketing leaders, they kind of went through the 5 stages, right? The first stage was denial. Okay, hey, listen, we work in marketing. This isn't an IT team. We don't need to worry about a stack of software. To then anger, frustration, usually directed at me because I'd show this chart and people would be like, stop showing this chart. I don't want to see it. This makes me unhappy. And then bargaining, okay, well, maybe if I just buy everything from one marketing cloud vendor, I'll solve everything I need then. And then eventually realizing that no, the world is more complex than that. Slide into a depression of, okay, how are we ever going to get all this stuff to work? This is why CMO tenure is so short. Finally, acceptance. I mean, this is the state of marketing technology today. And once you start to dig into it, it's actually pretty cool. The world of marketing has just changed so much, and it's not just the technology, it's really the focus that marketing has. The CMO Council had recently shared some of the top mandates for marketing leaders, and they were things like accelerating revenue growth across the organization, optimizing customer experience strategy, championing a customer-centric corporate culture and mindset. I mean, CX and ROI, if we want to use the abbreviations for this. By the way, do you know what you get if you build ROI right into the middle of your CX? You get LaCroix. Yeah, that's right. And if you can repackage flavored water at 5,000% markup, I mean, hey, that's pretty good marketing. All right, so customer experience and ROI, that sounds great, but how exactly do we do this? How do we leverage all this marketing technology and data technology to be able to achieve that? Well, a friend of mine, Doug Davidoff, had this, post on Twitter that resonated with me where he's like, all right, well, the folks I've seen who do this really well, they do it because they've got focus and plumbing. which I guess is kind of a good way of thinking about that. I'm not entirely sure that I like the plumbing metaphor. It sort of raises the question of exactly what are we piping through the marketing department here? So let's come up with a different view. What I want to share with you today with the new rules of marketing, technology, and operations really revolve around 5 missions for marketing operations leaders. Now, the first, centralize everything you can. The second, automate everything you can. Okay, so far so good. This sounds very marketing ops-like. Then number 3, decentralize everything you can. Number 4, humanize everything you can. And just to keep us occupied, right? Number 5, embrace continuous change. Now, I know if you're looking at this, I see you looking through the screen here, and you're like, all right, wait a second. You're in good company. Augie Ray, very distinguished researcher at Gartner, his response to this was, you just put automate everything you can and humanize everything you can, 2 places from each other. I can't decide if that's funny or sad. Thank you, Augie. To which my response was, hey, listen, the test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold 2 opposed ideas in mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. Nod to F. Scott Fitzgerald there. So let's dig into this a little bit, right? I mean, like, are these things truly opposed? I mean, like, let's start with centralized and decentralized. Now, classically, we would assume that the more centralized something is, the less decentralized it is, and vice versa. But it's interesting that in marketing technology, we see some very different patterns where technology is actually helping us both centralize and decentralize at the same time. So let me give you some really concrete examples. I mean, content management systems, right? One of the first marketing technology categories out there, right? When you think about it, it's about a centralized content repository with centralized brand approved templates, centralized process for how things get published. I mean, there's a lot of centralized operational goodness there. But at the same time, CMSs that are well set up, they really empower a much broader set of people throughout the organization to be able to contribute and leverage content, with blogging and landing pages produced by many teams. Customer data platforms, kind of the next generation of CRMs. We see this too, right? I mean, these are centralized systems, for centralizing customer data, creating a common customer identity that we can align these things against. But most of these CDPs are very open. Their architecture is designed to interface to many different data sources and to make the centralized data available to many different applications, and analysis systems. So it's like centralizing this data, but in a way that also empowers greater decentralization for how we collect and leverage data as well. I mean, we see these cases, and I mean, even things as simple as like G Suite, right? Standardized tools that then empower lots of people on the team to be able to do their own creative work. There's even a category of interesting things we'll look at in a bit of application platform as a service. All right, that's a mouthful. That allows people to use a centralized platform to let many individuals across the company also create their own custom apps as well too. So you can't centralize and decentralize at the same time. What about automate and humanize? What is this relationship like? Well, I think one of the most telling ways of looking at automation actually comes from Mickey Mouse. The Disney movie Fantasia from the 1940s. There was the Sorcerer's Apprentice, section of it. Mickey Mouse, he's the apprentice, and he gets the master's, magic wand, and he has the broom start doing his chores for him, which sounds great. Automation is a wonderful thing. But then what happens is all the brooms start doing the exact same automation again and again and again and again. And all of a sudden, that exact same automation at speed and scale has gone from good to bad. Now, I know you're thinking, that would never actually happen in marketing, where we would let some sort of automation get out of control and, just wreak havoc. But you know, if you've ever been on the wrong end of a nurturing email campaign, you know that actually it's all too easy for automation to get out of hand in marketing. You know, and again, this isn't about eliminating automation, but we really have to work to find the human elements in the automation we bring. And it's there, you just have to look closely. You know, so an interesting example of this. So this is my daughter, Jordan. This is a photo from about a year or so ago where we took her to her first concert, Taylor Swift concert. Don't judge me, don't judge me. I mean, you know, 11-year-old girls are like, yeah, you want to talk about influencer marketing. Anyway, so not going to tell you about the concert itself, which was great. It was wonderful. I'm now a Taylor Swift fan myself, but trying to get to this concert. We had purchased tickets months in advance for an ungodly amount of money, now that I think about it. But we purchased tickets, you know, months in advance. And then as the day for the show comes, I've been receiving all these emails from the ticket provider assuring me that, oh, okay, well, just, you know, go online and get your, you know, tickets, you know, electronically. Anyway, I try to get them electronically through the email. Website says, no, sorry, you can't get these online. I then download their app. I, you know, go to the app. The app gives me an error message. I'm then like starting to get worried. I try and call someone, you know, the phone line puts me in this voicemail, you know, voice prompt system that asks me for information like, oh, well, what credit card did you use to purchase these tickets? And, you know, it just so happened that credit card was a credit card that, you know, was one of the ones that, you know, got leaked with some sort of, you know, data hack months before that. So, you know, the bank had set out all new cards and I destroyed the old card, didn't have the number, couldn't get past the voice prompt system. I end up going to their chatbot on their system. It puts me in some queue for like, I mean, it went on for like 2 hours of me trying to resolve this. Ultimately, I had no choice but to try and, like, you know, drive to the concert facility itself and, you know, try and haggle with them at the box office. But what was crazy about it is through this entire thing, I had all these touch points, you know, the website, the app, the chatbot, the, you know, voice system, you know, and none of them could help me. And none of them actually gave me a mechanism to get to a human being who could resolve the problem for me. And that to me was when this like epiphany is like, okay, well, wait a second, all this technology where we talk about efficiency, you know, there can be efficiency for the company and efficiency for the customer. And these are two different axes. I mean, there are lots of things in our organizations that are not efficient for us and they're not efficient for our customers. And the technical term for that is crappy. Ideally, right, we want things that are efficient for both. That would be awesome. I would argue, particularly through the marketing lens, there are times when things are not necessarily efficient for the company, but they may be worth doing it if they bring efficiency or delight to the customer, right? These are brand building moments, you know, moments to delight and create loyalty. The scary one is this upper left quadrant, where we find ways that we're applying automation and technology to bring greater and greater efficiencies, you know, to our internal operations, but we're not actually making the experience for the customer better. In fact, we might make it worse, you know, and it's so easy when you start leaning into automation to just sort of fall into that mode. That one of the things marketing technology leaders really need to make sure they do is championing the view of how this is going to impact the customer experience, right? It's about CX and ROI. You know, there's, you know, the scout sayings like the map is not the train, you know, just what's on the map isn't necessarily what, you know, reality actually is. I would hijack that and say the map, the marketing automation platform, is not necessarily the customer. And by this, I mean, like, all right, well, with the scouts, they would say when the map and the train disagree, trust the terrain. You know, don't just keep walking forward if, you know, you're at the edge of a cliff, no matter what the map says. That it's kind of the same thing with all the data we have in these marketing automation and CRM systems. You know, there are times where the map and the customer that you're actually talking to disagree. And when that happens, trust the customer, because the data we have in our CRMs and our maps, you know, it's a piece of the puzzle, but it's not always the complete puzzle, and sometimes it's not always accurate. And we have to have the mechanisms inside our organization to be able to respond to the human opportunities that all this automation is leveraging around us. You know, a great example of this was there was an ad campaign from T-Mobile a year ago that I love this. You're gonna love this. Talk about, all right, this is market innovation. The whole campaign was like, all right, you can call T-Mobile, and they guarantee, you're gonna love this, a human being will answer the phone, right? It's not a voice prompt system. It's a human being who answers the phone. Oh, and better yet, that human being promises that whatever the challenge is, issue you're having, that human being will stay on the line and get that resolved for you. They won't keep like passing you on to different departments. There's actually a hilarious version of that campaign they did with a comedian that I think you would you can track down on YouTube. I won't spoil the surprise for you. All right, so we're getting this idea that yes, we can balance centralization and decentralization. We can balance automation, you know, the human element to what we're doing with marketing technology. So let's actually take a look at these two axes combined together. You know, centralization is about scale. Decentralization, I would say, is mostly about agility. Automation is about how we harness technology, and humanization is really about how we tap into the power of people, both inside our organization and with our relationships with customers. What's interesting is if you look at the 4 quadrants that we get, you know, out of this 2x2 of these two axes, you know, it's like, all right, well, automation and centralization is about efficiency. Automation and decentralization is where we get some exciting innovation. You know, the centralized, you know, human element here really becomes, quite frankly, the incarnation of our brand. But the brand has its authenticity when that human empowerment is truly decentralized through the organization as well. And then we put change right at the middle of this because, yeah, we live in a world where, you know, both strategically, competitively, but also technologically, you know, the playing field keeps shifting. So I wanted to, you know, take the rest of our time here to sort of dig through each one of these 4 quadrants and talk in a little bit more detail about what happens in them. So centralization of technology, automation there, this is kind of what we think of as traditional marketing operations and marketing technology, right? We standardize common tools, this idea of rationalizing your marketing tech stack. One of the things I do every year is I run a contest called the Stackies, where I invite marketers to send in a single slide that illustrates the way they conceive of their marketing stack, the different tools they use and how they work together. And all these stacks, I've been doing this for a few years, they're all online for free on SlideShare. Just Google martech Stackies, and there's like a couple hundred of them out there. You know, just as one example here, like Cisco has contributed their marketing tech stack over a couple years. And so it's just interesting to look at how they think of these different tools, their relationship to each other, how that fits together, you know, into a bigger marketing capabilities architecture. Of course, right? This isn't just about the tools, but it's standardizing common data, you know, probably the most important of which is identity. You know, if it's location, you know, in retail, it's identity. In our centralized data work, there's a certain amount of standardizing processes, and very much in marketing ops, this is where you're standardizing, you know, common reporting and analysis. But let's hop on over to the decentralized side of this. You know, this is where we recognize that, okay, in addition to all those centralized tools and processes, we also want to empower, you know, local experimentation and workflows. You know, there are times now in this technological world where different teams need to bring their own tools to the specific work they're doing. There's cases where the data isn't necessarily all centralized, you know, for good reasons or bad, but how do we manage federated data across a larger organization? And there's this interesting category of folks, citizen technologists, like citizen developers, citizen data scientists, citizen integrators, you know, where essentially non-experts, you know, like people who aren't software engineers, they aren't data scientists, they aren't systems integrators, but they're able to leverage tools that let non-technical experts get a lot of those benefits. This is my whole collection of Disney-related metaphors. So the Pixar movie Ratatouille. I mean, if the rat can cook, anyone can cook. I would argue that actually in modern marketing, turns out anyone can develop, integrate, or analyze. And you might be skeptical about this. So I'm going to walk you through some very clear evidence of how that is true today. So, all right, let's take a look at a chart of, over time, the amount of app-like functionality that marketers have in the palm of their hands. And we'll start with Excel. I mean, pretty much everyone, anyone who has ever worked in marketing knows how to use Excel, right? This was marketing technology before there was marketing technology. And to be honest, it's a really flexible tool. There's a lot you can do with it. Well, over the past 10 years, there was this rise of a whole new generation of spreadsheet tools that were interactive, supporting collaboration, in the cloud. Google Sheets is a great example about this. And one of the things that was cool about Google Sheets is G Suite in general had this other app called Google Forms, where you could post this form out on the web or send it around an email, collect data, and then pipe that data right into a Google Sheet. When you think about it, right? I mean, this is a really lightweight app, the Google form that collects data and then, basically maps it into your own custom little database, whatever that sheet is. So that's starting to get really powerful. Now what takes it to the next level is there's a whole bunch of tools called integration platform as a service. Again, I know that's kind of a mouthful too. I pass, but they're actually pretty simple tools. That these cloud-based solutions that let you take data from pretty much any cloud-based app, and based on a trigger, something that happens in that app, pipe that data to some other cloud-based app as well too, And so, yeah, if you get data that comes in on a Google form and it goes into a Google Sheet, you can also take that data and you can send it off to your CRM. You can send it to your marketing automation platform. Depending if certain conditions are met, you might alert someone in a Slack channel. You can take data from your CRM, and pipe it into Google Sheets. And so all of a sudden, Google Sheets, right, is becoming the center of the universe, for a lot of application and data power. And this trend is actually just accelerating. Like the number of tools that are out there that if you're comfortable using a spreadsheet, things like Airtable and AppSheet and Smartsheet and Salesforce Lightning Object Creator, that you can take a spreadsheet in Excel, upload it to Salesforce, and it turns it into a little Lightning app inside your Salesforce, console. I mean, there's even, I'll show you this app called Glide, that you fill out a spreadsheet, a Google Sheet, and then it takes that sheet and it turns it into a mobile app for iOS and Android, and you can publish it from there. So, I mean, literally, if you know how to use Excel, you can now create all kinds of web and mobile apps. Wow, so every Excel user in marketing is now also an app developer. They just didn't necessarily know it. I mean, the dynamics here are really fascinating and powerful, right? I mean, we are looking at the democratization of technology, where things that used to require discipline experts, like, all right, well, I work in IT or I'm a software engineer, slowly converted over to making that power available to domain experts, like, oh, well, I'm the marketing ops person, I'm the marketing technology person. And we're even now starting to see these tools trend more towards power users and regular users. I mean, really specifically within marketing, this is the evolution we saw over the past 10 years from, IT controlling all corporate systems to increasingly marketing technologists in the marketing department having a lot of management responsibility for the marketing stack itself. And it's moving increasingly to the right, where again, regular marketers who don't think of themselves as marketing technologists are now able to build a lot of these like workflows and these, little sort of helper apps, and run analyses, on their own using tools like, Looker and Tableau. This is an incredible revolution. And I think, over the past 10 years, the revolution that happened, from, IT to marketing technologists was a big transition. But frankly, this transition that citizen technology gives to just regular power users and users, I think is going to be even more exciting. All right, so let's go down to the human side of the chart here. We'll start on the decentralized side. I mean, a lot of this comes down to empowerment, right? It is empowering people in the marketing organization, and not just the marketing department, but sales and customer success, because I mean, all these things connect into really the marketing experience as far as customers are concerned. It's really about empowering them to do the right thing for the customer in the moment. This is about giving them levers that they can pull based on empathy and intuition that frankly still escape, a lot of, the automation technologies we have. It's frankly about even getting people in marketing ops and marketing technology to go and visit customers, in their actual natural habitats, to just really develop that empathy. And I mean, there's technology that can help here too. Some interesting categories of technology that are focused on detecting anomalies within customer experiences, but it's about recognizing, yes, the exceptions to the rule and not just always assuming, that the rules execute flawlessly. As we start to look at how do we centralize the human capabilities here, there's a tremendous opportunity with marketing enablement. Now, you're probably familiar with sales enablement, which is a very, common, responsibility in marketing to provide the sales organization with the tools and the content to be able to effectively, engage with customers. Marketing enablement is kind of a variation of that, which is like, given all these incredible technologies and data sources that we have, how do we teach the rest of the marketing organization how to take full advantage of this? We did a study a year ago that found that 2/3 of companies said they don't believe they have the skills or talent to make the most use of marketing technology, right? I mean, there's just so much there and it's been changing so rapidly. So this idea of marketing enablement to help teach people, how to take advantage of this technology has a lot of power for unlocking that value. There's a great example of this I love to use from Airbnb. So Airbnb is a very data-driven decision-making culture, and they built some incredible infrastructure, for supporting, analytical capabilities, that could be pushed far and wide throughout the organization. But it was interesting because they realized, for all the technology that they created there, they ran into this challenge of, people coming to Airbnb didn't necessarily have the training for how to make really good data-driven decisions. And so they created this whole, university, Airbnb data university, that they could then run people through, different courses and different stages. They did some great write-ups on this on Medium, so, you can learn a little bit from their example. But to me, this is a perfect example. This data education is a perfect example of the kinds of marketing enablement we can provide. And again, from a marketing ops perspective, a lot of the responsibility there is for governance, but increasingly we want to have enlightened governance that also supports and enables that more decentralized and distributed innovation and empathetic responses to customers. We might have things like a central customer code, or culture code. These things are really well defined, the principles of, how do we make decisions? How is our, what are our principles with how we approach engaging with customers and, our colleagues? And I would argue that marketing technology and marketing ops leaders need to play an active role in helping to define and implement the support for customer code and culture code. All right, so cool. All these, different pieces hopefully starts to make sense here, how they fit together. The last thing I want to focus on is change right at the middle of this, because this is definitely not a static landscape that you deal with. To me, I think the greatest management challenge of the 21st century is we live in a world where technology is changing exponentially, right? I mean, this starts with Moore's law, the doubling of computing power speed every couple years, which is more or less held for a very long time. But right, we see this sort of change happening all throughout the modern world, of just this acceleration of technological innovation. The challenge is, we as human beings, particularly groups of organization, human beings in an organization, right? We do not change exponentially. We change much more slowly. And so the dilemma we face with these two different curves, I've sometimes called this martechs law, because I saw it in the context of marketing technology organizations. But this is really challenging. Now, the truth is, there's no magic bullet here, right? I mean, you just can't change an organization exponentially. So you have, only a couple levers you can pull. One is, you can be very deliberate about which changes you embrace under the organizational change curve. And then the other thing you can do is you can recognize, all right, well, we may not be perfectly exponential, but can we make our organization more agile than competitors? Can we outrun them? And this is really where the opportunity in marketing technology and operations leadership is to take a view of designing, these systems and these architectures for change. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that, like the average duration of a technical initiative from business request to deployment was just pathetically long, right? I mean, like, sure, some organizations, would typically do this in, maybe about 1 out of 5 would do it, in less than 6 months. But a lot of organizations, the history was, oh yeah, I'd make that technical request, and it would be 6 months to a year before I saw it happen. In fact, or at least a third of the respondents to this study said, well, it's probably going to be more like a year or 2 year. In fact, I love the 3% who responded with, I don't know. Yeah, I requested that back last 20th century sometime, and they still haven't gotten around to it. I've retired. I've since gone golfing, fishing. But right, I mean, this is what the world used to be like, with a lot of IT requests. We just expected a really long lead time. But in today's world, where things just change so quickly, this doesn't work. It just doesn't allow us to be competitive. And so increasingly, from a marketing technology and operations perspective, we really want to think about how we design for change, be able to respond to these things faster. And there's a bunch of great tools and models we can use for that. Gartner's pace layering model for IT, which said not all technology systems are created equal or have to be managed equally. They identified 3 different layers where, like, okay, there's these fundamental systems of record that become stable foundations for data. You don't want to change those on a very frequent basis, things like CRMs. On top of that, they talked about systems of differentiation, unique apps and processes for your particular business, which do tend to change more quickly. But then they also identified, this third layer of systems of innovation, this developing a cultural and process mechanism to experiment with trials of new technologies, run pilot projects, be able to move quickly. And so I wanted to share actually one of these other entries to the stackies, this one from Microsoft, where I love the way they designed their martech stack illustration. The loop here is sort of mirroring the customer journey, but the 3 different shades of blue, from light blue to dark blue, are actually mapping the different technologies they were working with to that Gartner pace layering model: systems of record, systems of differentiation, and systems of innovation. All right. Part of this is being able to take advantage of open platforms in the marketing technology world. More and more of the primary leaders in the martech space are opening up their systems. That provides a tremendous vector for supporting change. I mean, it used to be in marketing clouds, you had like this choice between suite or best of breed. Either all the tools from one vendor, but you were limited by what was in the box, or best of breed. Sure, you could pick your favorites from all across that marketing tech landscape, but it was up to you to figure out how to tie them all together. I'm very excited that, over these past couple of years, we've seen this, dichotomy be broken, and almost all of the major marketing platforms are embracing a platform ecosystem approach, where it's really about, not just what you get, from, the platform vendor themselves, but the ecosystem of verified partners who surround them, and when we start looking at partners that integrate their apps into these platforms, right? It's not just about data integration. That's maybe the fundamental layer there, but increasingly you're seeing integration across workflows. You're seeing more and more integration in the UI and the UX. And there's also a really great opportunity for these platform companies to provide some governance in their ecosystem, to be able to assure customers that, yes, we've done security reviews for these. Yes, we can verify that these folks, are compliant with GDPR, CCPA, and, other privacy regulations as well, too. I kind of think of this, stacked way of looking at integrations, the data workflow, UI, UX to governance. There's like a sort of a metaphor for that, where you can think of data as nouns, workflow as verbs, UI, UX is a common language, and governance is the grammar. What's the proper use of that language? Okay, so that's a little bit nerdy. We'll move on. Agile marketing, right? You've probably heard this term. You might actually be working, with these management principles. This is really about recognizing that design for change isn't just about technological architecture. It's about the management methodologies we use. There's some great work from Agile Sherpas that's, been studying this, the advancement of agile practices in marketing for a number of years. And I mean, they're on the rise. There's still a lot of companies, that have to embrace this, but we see more and more growth. And it's not just about, the pretty words of let's be agile. It's like, okay, well, how do people actually implement the methodology of this to be able to get better visibility into, projects, to be able to identify roadblocks quicker, to be able to have a faster iterative approach to which things get released. So many good things there. But I think if there's one thing above everything else that you have to champion, to be really good at change, it ultimately comes down to an open mindset. We just have to be open to the fact that the way we did things last year and sort of the tool sets and, the expectations of how things work, that can change at any point in time. And we have to be willing to embrace that as it happens. All right, so I know this has been a bit of a whirlwind, but yeah, stepping back, I hope this model of a 2x2 looking, centralization to decentralization, automation to humanization, how we manage those 4 quadrants and really focus on enabling change, continuous change across all of them, can be helpful to you in the work you're doing and the partners you have in the marketing department who you work so closely with. So again, I'm Scott Brinker. Feel free to reach out to me, contact information here, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks so much for watching this presentation. Join us on the Analytics Nexus Slack to talk with our presenters about this topic and more.